The photo didn't look like much at first glance. Just the underside of an old pickup truck, posted casually in an online forum. But for anyone who understands what winter road salt does to steel, it stopped you cold. 20-plus years on brutal northern roads, and the frame looked untouched by time. No flaking, no deep corrosion, no structural decay. The owner wasn't selling anything. No product link, no sponsorship. Just a simple explanation buried in the comments. A $3 solution mixed in a bucket and brushed on by hand. That alone would be interesting. But what makes it worth your time is this. This method wasn't new. It wasn't innovative. It wasn't even modern. Variations of it protected Roman weapons, preserved naval fleets in the Age of Empire, and kept military equipment operational in the harshest conditions of the Second World War. The same underlying chemistry has been rediscovered, refined, and quietly repackaged for profit over centuries. What matters for us, as serious students of history and survival, is not the novelty, it's the continuity. Because when the same solution appears again and again across time, across continents, and across completely different cultures, stops being a trick. It becomes a principle. Principles are what keep you alive when systems fail. Let's get into it. The origin of this method begins with Roman industry rather than Roman warfare. Long before formal chemistry existed, Roman leatherworkers were engaged in a process that would accidentally unlock one of the most reliable forms of metal preservation ever discovered. They soaked animal hides in vats filled with water and crushed oak bark, creating a dense acidic solution used to tan leather into something durable and flexible. What they noticed had nothing to do with leather. Iron tools that fell into these vats behaved differently. Knives that would normally rust quickly in damp conditions came out of the solution darker, more stable, and resistant to further corrosion. Buckles, nails, and fittings developed a thin, almost blackened surface that didn't degrade the way untreated iron did. This wasn't theory. It was observation. And in a world where tools meant survival, anything that extended the life of iron was immediately valuable. Word spread, the way it always does, in functional societies. From tanners to blacksmiths, from blacksmiths to armorers, and eventually into military use. Roman soldiers operating in wet, hostile environments began treating their equipment with concentrated plant extracts before campaigns. Maintenance wasn't optional. It was the difference between a weapon that worked and one that failed when needed most. Records from frontier forts confirm that these treatments were routine. That matters, because it tells us this wasn't folklore or isolated experimentation. It was standardized practice. The same solution emerged independently across the world. What makes this method more than just a historical curiosity is how often it appears in completely separate cultures. When you see the same approach developed in isolation, you're looking at a universal solution to a universal problem. In Japan, swordsmiths faced a different challenge but arrived at a similar answer. Traditional blades combined hard steel edges with softer iron cores. That softer iron was vulnerable, especially in humid conditions. Craftsmen began applying tannin-rich plant extracts to stabilize the metal before final processing. It became part of the discipline of sword-making, passed through generations as guarded knowledge. In West Africa, ironworkers dealing with extreme seasonal humidity turned to tree bark and plant pods rich in tannins. Tools treated this way lasted through months of relentless moisture that would destroy untreated metal. In Persia, pomegranate rind extracts were used for similar purposes. In parts of South America, local hardwoods provided the same chemical advantage. Different plants, different environments, same outcome. That consistency is not coincidence. It's chemistry. The science explains why this works when other methods fail. For most of history, people didn't need to understand the mechanism. It worked, and that was enough. But once modern chemistry caught up, the explanation revealed something critical for anyone serious about long-term maintenance. Rust is iron oxide. It's unstable, porous, and destructive. Most modern treatments try to cover it up, paint it, seal it, isolate it. Problem is that coatings fail. They crack, they scratch, and when they do, corrosion resumes underneath. What tannin-based solutions do is fundamentally different. They react with the rust itself. Instead of covering it, they transform it into a new compound, iron tannate. This substance is stable, dense, and resistant to water. It bonds directly to the metal surface, and doesn't flake away. That distinction matters more than anything else in this process. You are not hiding the problem, you are converting it into protection. When you understand that, everything else becomes straightforward. War proved the reliability of this approach under extreme conditions. There is no better testing ground for material reliability than war. Equipment failure costs lives, and ineffective solutions don't last long under that kind of pressure. By the mid-19th century, naval forces were already experimenting with tannin-based treatments on iron hulls. Ships exposed to saltwater conditions showed measurable improvements in corrosion resistance compared to standard coatings of the time, but the real validation came during the global conflicts of the 20th century. Military equipment had to function across radically different environments: deserts, jungles, oceans. Moisture, salt, and temperature fluctuations pushed materials to their limits. Testing programs evaluated hundreds of anti-corrosion methods. Tannin-based solutions consistently performed at the top, especially when applied to already rusted surfaces. That's the key detail, not clean metal, rusted metal. That meant damaged equipment could be stabilized quickly without extensive preparation. In a wartime environment, that kind of efficiency is invaluable. The result was widespread use: vehicles, weapons, storage containers, structural components, all treated with variations of this same chemistry. Not because it was traditional, but because it worked. The reason most people overlook this today comes down to economics. There's no mystery behind why this knowledge isn't common. It doesn't require specialized tools. It doesn't depend on proprietary formulas. And most importantly, it's inexpensive. After large-scale industrialization, the focus shifted toward products that could be manufactured, branded, and sold at scale. Natural compounds that anyone could source and apply didn't fit that model, so they were absorbed into commercial formulations, combined with additives, and sold at a markup. If you look closely at many rust treatment products today, you'll still find the same active chemistry at their core. It hasn't been replaced, it's been repackaged. It doesn't make those products useless. Some include stabilizers that improve shelf life or ease of application, but the underlying reaction is the part that actually stops the corrosion. It's the same one discovered thousands of years ago. Understanding that gives you options. And options are a form of independence. The practical method is simple, but requires attention to detail. The process itself doesn't demand advanced skills, but it does require you to follow it properly. You start with a tannin-rich solution. This can come from pure tannic acid powder or concentrated natural sources. Mixed with warm water, it creates a liquid similar in appearance to strong tea. The surface you're treating doesn't need to be stripped to bare metal. That's one of the advantages. What you do need to remove is loose, flaking rust. A wire brush or coarse abrasive is enough. You're not polishing, you're preparing. Application is straightforward: brush, cloth, or spray. What matters is even coverage. Once applied, the reaction begins almost immediately. The color shift from reddish-brown to dark blue-black is not cosmetic. It's the chemical transformation happening in real time. Drying time depends on conditions, but patience here pays off. A second application ensures deeper conversion and more consistent protection. Once cured, the surface can be left as is or sealed with additional coatings, depending on the use case. Tools might benefit from oil or wax. Structural components might need paint or heavier protection. The important point is that the base layer is no longer active corrosion. It's stable. This knowledge matters because it reflects a larger pattern. What you're looking at here is not just a method for preserving metal. It's a case study in how effective solutions persist through history, even when they're obscured by changing systems. Roman soldiers didn't have access to modern chemistry, but they understood maintenance. Japanese craftsmen didn't rely on industrial coatings, but they mastered material behavior. Military engineers didn't care about tradition. They cared about performance, and they chose what worked. That continuity is what makes this valuable, not because it's old, but because it's proven. In a world where convenience often replaces understanding, rediscovering something like this is more than practical. It's strategic. It means you're not dependent on a single system, a single product, or a single supply chain. And that's the core of intelligent survival. If this changed the way you look at something as ordinary as rust, if it made you reconsider what's possible with the materials around you, then pass it on. Share it with someone who values real knowledge over surface-level fixes. Subscribe to Intelligent Survival for more content like this, where history isn't just something you study, it's something you use.